The AZ-204 exam is new release and replace the AZ-203 developing solutions for Microsoft Azure exam, which will be retired on August. Once a candidate passes either the AZ-203 or AZ-204 exam, they will earn the Microsoft Certified Azure Developer Associate certification. PassQuestion provides the latest Azure Developer AZ-204 exam questions which cover all the exam topics and objectives and will prepare you for success quickly and efficiently. We regularly update the AZ-204 questions and answers to make sure you always gain access to the most current product. Question 1. You are developing an application that uses Azure Blob storage. The application must read the transaction logs of all the changes that occur to the blobs and the blob metadata in the storage account for auditing purposes. The changes must be in the order in which they occurred, include only create, update, delete, and copy operations, and be retained for compliance reasons. You need to process the transaction logs asynchronously. What should you do? A. Process all Azure Blob storage events by using Azure Event Grid with a subscriber Azure Function app. B. Enable the change feed on the storage account and process all changes for available events. C. Process all Azure Storage Analytics logs for successful blob events. D. Use the Azure Monitor HTTP Data Collector API and scan the request body for successful blob events. Answer: B. Question 2. You are developing a web app that is protected by Azure Web Application Firewall (WAF). All traffic to the web app is routed through an Azure Application Gateway instance that is used by multiple web apps. The web app address is contoso.azurewebsites.net. All traffic must be secured with SSL. The Azure Application Gateway instance is used by multiple web apps. You need to configure the Azure Application Gateway for the app. Which two actions should you perform? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. In the Azure Application Gateway's HTTP setting, enable the use for app service setting. B. Convert the web app to run in an Azure App Service Environment (ASE). C. Add an authentication certificate for contoso.azurewebsites.net to the Azure Application Gateway. D. In the Azure Application Gateway's HTTP setting, set the value of the override backend path option to contoso22.azurewebsites.net. Answer: A. D. Question 3. Note, this question is part of a series of questions that present the same scenario. Each question in the series contains a unique solution that might meet the stated goals. Some question sets might have more than one correct solution, while others might not have a correct solution. After you answer a question in this section, you will not be able to return to it. As a result, these questions will not appear in the review screen. You develop a software as a service (SaaS) offering to manage photographs. Users upload photos to a web service which then stores the photos in Azure Storage Blob storage. The storage account type is General Purpose v2. When photos are uploaded, they must be processed to produce and save a mobile-friendly version of the image. The process to produce a mobile-friendly version of the image must start in less than 1 minute. You need to design the process that starts the photo processing. Solution: trigger the photo processing from Blob storage events. Does the solution meet the goal? A. Yes. B. No. Answer: B. Question 4. You need to store the user agreements. Where should you store the agreement after it is completed? A. Azure Storage Queue. B. Azure Event Hub. C. Azure Service Bus Topic. D. Azure Event Grid Topic. Answer: B. Question 5. You develop Azure solutions. You must connect to a NoSQL globally distributed database by using the .NET API. You need to create an object to configure and execute requests in the database. Which code segment should you use? A. New container, endpoint URI, primary key. B. New database, endpoint, primary key. C. New Cosmos client, endpoint URI, primary key. Answer: C. Question 6. You need to secure the shipping logic app. What should you use? A. Azure App Service Environment (ASE). B. Integration Service Environment (ISE). C. VNet Service Endpoint. D. Azure ADB2B Integration. Answer: B. Question 7. Your company is developing an Azure API. You need to implement authentication for the Azure API. You have the following requirements. All API calls must be secure. Callers to the API must not send credentials to the API. Which authentication mechanism should you use? A. Basic. B. Anonymous. C. Managed identity. D. Client certificate. Answer: C. Question 8. You are a developer for a SaaS company that offers many web services. All web services for the company must meet the following requirements. Use API management to access the services. Use OpenID Connect for authentication. Prevent anonymous usage. A recent security audit found that several web services can be called without any authentication. Which API management policy should you implement? A. JSONP. B. Authentication certificate. C. Check header. D. Validate JWT. Answer: D. Question 9. You have a new Azure subscription. You are developing an internal website for employees to view sensitive data. The website uses Azure Active Directory (Azure AD) for authentication. You need to implement multi-factor authentication for the website. Which two actions should you perform? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Configure the website to use Azure ADB2C. B. In Azure AD, create a new conditional access policy. C. Upgrade to Azure AD Premium. D. In Azure AD, enable application proxy. E. In Azure AD conditional access, enable the baseline policy. Answer, B, C.